All right, so I just want to do a really quick tutorial on getting started with Eleventy. So I've got a folder that I've created here for the project, Eleventy Starter. I'm just going to run npm init y for yes, and it's going to generate a package JSON file here. The next thing I need to do is to install Eleventy. So I'm going to run npm install, and I'm going to save this to dev Eleventy. So I'll come back once that's done. Okay, so that's finished installing all of our node modules. The next thing we're going to do is add a script so that we can run Eleventy. I'm actually going to replace this test script here with a different one. And that's just going to run npx Eleventy clean, which will clean the site directory, and then npx Eleventy serve. So that will start Eleventy and serve it for us on localhost. Okay, so next let's create a page. I'm going to write in the terminal here, touch index.njk. That's going to create a Nunjux template file for us. And in here, I'm going to create a HTML page. So let me just start with a document like this. And then we're going to add some front matter to this document. So I just add some fences here like this. And then there I put title. And I can say this is empty. And then I can output that to the title here. So this is just templating with Nunjux. So next, what I can do is I can run npm run, and we can run that npm script that we created before here. So we'll run npm run start. That's built that site for us, and it's now running on localhost port 8080. Switching to localhost 8080, you can see that we now have an empty page with the title, this is empty. So what's that's doing is it's able to grab, Eleventy is grabbing the data from front matter and making that available inside the Nunjux templating language there. Now this is really good, but what we really want to be doing is separating our content from our layouts. So we're going to create a directory, new directory here in the root called _includes. And inside that, we're going to create a template called base, again, .njk. And we're also going to create another template called page, or a layout called page, I should say. Okay, so inside the base template, this is kind of like a thing that lets us create blocks that we can then sort of override with the pages. So I'm going to start by copying the content from the page that we created before. And this is going to form the base of every page. Then I want to start adding blocks around this. So I use this little syntax here and I say block, and I can say header. And then I'll copy that there, and I'll change this one to, I think it's end block. So what I now want to do is create some blocks for the content as well. So we'll say, we can't duplicate them. So I'll say head at the top of the content. We'll say content for the main body, and we might say foot for the footer. So we now have four content sections, four sections that our layouts can override. Okay, so in the layout now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a layout that extends the base, and then I'm going to override the block content with the main tag where I output the content. So now if I go back to my index file, I can rename this to index.md, because I don't need any of this template stuff anymore. And I can say this is empty in the body and save that. So now all I need to say is that the layout that it should use should be page, save that. Now, if we go back to our browser and reload, you can see that it now has the content. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's just a really quick getting started there. But obviously there's other things that you might want to do as well, including creating collections. So collections are like groups of similar pages, and a really common example would be posts on a blog. So if we copy the page layout here and we rename this to post, normally you'd have like different content for pages and posts, but we both have them extend the base template so that you can have your sort of overall framework remain the same, and then you apply the differences to each of the layouts. We're just going to leave them the same for today, but you can sort of understand how they might deviate. We're going to create a folder here called posts. So inside that, we're going to create another file called posts.json. This is just like similar to our front matter. We're going to create some data inside that. And this is a JSON file, so it looks slightly different. So we don't want a title, but we do want every page here to use the same layout. And we're going to say use the post layout. We're also going to give it a tag. The tag is how you sort of group pages together in a collection. I'm going to call this collection post as well. And we just need a comma there. We can save that. So now what I can do is I can sort of create a page inside, or create a post inside posts. And we'll say this is post.md. Now inside this file, again, we're going to have some front matter. We're going to have a title. But we don't need to say, like we did with the first example, we don't need to say which layout to use because it's going to grab that data from here along with the tag, and it's going to create a collection for us called posts. So in here, I can just put the content, and I'll save that, and Eleventy will rebuild the page for us. And if I go to localhost 8080/posts/this is a post, we can see that we have the post there. Now, there are a couple of other things that you might want to do, and a common one is assets. So let's create a new folder here as well, and we'll call this assets. And inside here, you might put images and CSS files or all sorts of things that you don't really want Eleventy to translate as templates. They're not really content. They're just sort of often binary files. So let's create like a CSS file as an example. And in here, we might just have body, we'll say background, ink. Save that. But all we want to do is make sure that that file's copied over into the site directory here. So what we need to do, we need to create a config file for Eleventy. And what that involves is just creating a new file in the root directory here called .eleventy.js, like this. Now, an Eleventy config file needs to return sort of a function that you can then use to configure Eleventy. So this is a Node.js type file, so we'll say module exports equals, and that's a function. And then that's going to give us an Eleventy config object. And then to that, I can add a pass-through copy. And what this is going to say is it's going to say take the assets directory and output that directly to the site. So if I save that, you can see that the assets now get copied to the site root here. If I make this an object, I can change the output directory. So I could say files instead. See that in the site directory, it's now output that to files instead. So let's just leave it as assets for now. There's one other thing I want you to know about the Eleventy config, and that is you can return from here an object that allows you to change the input directory. So you could put all of your sort of your includes and your posts and everything inside a directory called source or something else. And you could also change the output directory from site to dist or something else, depending on what you need to serve your website. So to do that, you just return dir, and then in there you can say input, and then that can be src if you want to import all of your sort of your files from the source directory, and then output. And again, the default for this one is _site, but you can change that to dist, pretty common, or anything else. I'm just going to stick with the default Eleventy config for my site for the moment. But yeah, if you want to organize it that way, you can. So that's like a really simple getting started scaffolding project for Eleventy. So if you want, I've uploaded a really empty scaffolding project, just like the one we built to GitHub, and it's called emp.ty. I made it for myself, but if you find it useful and you want to use it, please go ahead. The URL is github.com, made by Mike /mty. Thanks.